Hey guys, so today we will be working on Standard 69, solving quadratic functions by graphing. Okay, so on these kinds of questions, what we'll give you is a graph, and you'll be expected to find the following. You'll be able to identify the x-intercepts, the axis of symmetry, the vertex, if it's a maximum or minimum and what it is, the domain, and the range. So some of these we've already been working with, but a couple will be a little new to us. So let's go ahead and get started with our first example. Please have both the graph sketched to the best of your ability and everything that we're supposed to be finding written down in your notebook. All right, let's go ahead and get started on x-intercepts. Let's remember that x-intercepts are where our graph crosses the x-axis. So when I look at the x-axis, I see that the graph crosses in two spots, here and here. So a lot of times on these problems, we're going to have to do a pretty good estimate, but as long as your estimation looks like it's in the ballpark, you'll be just fine. So whenever I look at my first point, which is right here, to me that looks like it's at about -2.5. So when I write my x-intercept, remember our x value always comes first. So I'll have -2.5, comma, then for my y, it's 0. I did not move up and down my y-axis at all. My second x-intercept is a little to the right of my origin, so that I might say, we'll say that's at 0.5. So I'll have my second x-intercept as 0.5, comma, 0. And these are my two x-intercepts. Before, when we solved quadratic equations by factoring and went through and solved for x when y was 0, this is what we got. It was our x-intercepts on our graph. So let's go ahead and move on to the axis of symmetry. So our axis of symmetry is going to be the vertical line that passes through the vertex. So maybe we should identify our vertex first. Remember, our vertex is either our highest or our lowest point of our parabola, and so in this case it is right here at the point -1, -2. Alright, so now it should be pretty easy for us to find our axis of symmetry. Going straight through that vertex, it's this dotted line here, and I can actually write the equation of that line. Remember, vertical lines are x equals, so we'll have x equals -1. And the axis of symmetry just tells us that whatever is on the left of the axis of symmetry is the mirrored image on the right. So now we can talk about max or min. So we already identified the vertex at -1, 2. Because my parabola opens up, this is going to be a minimum value, and I can say that my minimum value is -2. So the minimum is -2. And now domain and range are going to be our newer terms. So domain, we're going to do a quick little definition up here, is the spread of our x's. Spread of x's, and then our range is going to be the spread of our y's, and I will explain what that means. The range is our spread of y's. So when I'm saying domain is the spread of my x's, if I take my pencil from left to right of the graph, what are going to be all of the x points that I hit? Well, when I look at my parabola, it goes on and on in either direction. I can extend these lines forever in either direction, and so we represent forever and ever in math with infinity. So what we'll have is domain and range are going to be written in either parentheses or brackets. So I'll have, it goes from -infinity to +infinity is my domain. And then my range is going to be the spread of my y. So I start at the bottom of my graph, and whenever I hit my first y value, that's where I'm going to start. So it starts at 2. Because my graph actually will touch a 2, or excuse me, a -2, I'm going to use a bracket, and I will have -2 as my starting, going all the way up forever and ever, so to +infinity. And then since we can never actually reach infinity, that's going to be closed with an open bracket. So for our first example, this is everything that we need. Let's go on to example 2. Please have a quick sketch of this and everything else written on your notes. So let's go ahead and start with our x-intercepts. So again, x-intercepts are where we cross the y-axis. We just need a good estimate if it doesn't cross at a number. So for my first one, it looks like it's at about negative 0.25 comma 0. And my second x-intercept is at about 6.1 comma 0. My vertex is all the way up here at the point 3,5. My axis of symmetry is the line that crosses through my vertex. So that's at x equals 3. You'll notice it is the same as my, x equals 3, my x value of my vertex. Because this parabola opens down, my vertex is going to be a maximum. It's the highest point. So this time we have a maximum, and that maximum is equal to 5, or my y value. Now remember, domain is going from left to right. Wherever I drag my pencil, what points it's going to hit. So it looks like this parabola goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. So I've hit negative infinity, comma, positive infinity. And then my range, I start at the bottom. So from negative infinity all the way up to a 5. And negative infinity we can never touch, so it'll be open parentheses, negative infinity to the positive 5. My graph actually touches that, so that will be a closed bracket. And that's our second example. So go ahead and get this written down in your notes and try this on your own. Bring this class tomorrow with any questions that you have.